Welcome back to Cartography and Geography Club. Today we're going to work through how Guyana could greatly increase its economy without being overly reliant on a single industry, otherwise known as Dutch disease. But before we do, let's give you some background on how we got here. Guyana's economy has undergone significant transformation in recent years, with rapid GDP growth driven primarily by the discovery and production of offshore oil reserves. Since oil production began in 2019, the country has experienced double-digit growth, with its GDP surpassing $14 billion in 2023. This oil boom has positioned Guyana as one of the fastest growing economies globally, drawing in substantial foreign direct investment or FDI and reshaping the country's economic landscape. Despite the dominance of the oil and gas sector, traditional industries like agriculture, mining, and manufacture continue to play vital roles, though they face challenges related to modernization, infrastructure, and environmental sustainability. The oil and gas sector is now the dominant force in Guyana's economy, with the country producing over 400,000 barrels of oil per day by 2023, and projections suggesting it could reach 1 million barrels per day by the end of the decade. Oil revenue has been the potential to transform the economy, providing the government with the funds to invest in infrastructure, education, and social programs. The establishment of a sovereign wealth fund aims to ensure the long-term benefits of oil wealth are realized while mitigating the risks of economic overdependence on a single commodity. While oil dominates, agriculture remains crucial, particularly for employment and food security. The sector contributes about 15% to the GDP, with rice and sugar being the most important agricultural products. Rice, which is a major export to the Caribbean markets, plays a key role in both food production and foreign exchange earnings. However, the sugar industry has struggled in recent years due to global market shifts, production inefficiencies, and high costs, leading to a decline in its contribution to the economy. Other agricultural products such as fruits, vegetables, and livestock are important for domestic consumption, though modernization remains a challenge. The mining sector, traditionally a cornerstone of the economy, continues to be a major contributor. Gold mining is the second largest foreign exchange earner after oil, with large-scale operations and artisanal mining providing significant employment. However, the sector faces regulatory challenges and environmental concerns. Bauxite mining, while less prominent than in the past, remains an important part of the economy. As the country seeks to diversify, attention is being paid to how mining can coexist with sustainable development efforts. Manufacturing is a smaller but vital part of Guyana's economy, accounting for about 5 to 7% of GDP. It is centered on agro-processing, including the processing of sugar, rice, and rum, with El Dorado rum being one of the country's most famous exports. The sector, however, faces significant challenges related to outdated infrastructure, energy inefficiencies, and a lack of skilled labor, which limits its growth potential. Efforts to diversify and modernize manufacturing are ongoing, with government incentives in place to encourage investment. The service sector is the largest non-oil component of Guyana's economy, contributing over 40% of GDP. This sector includes financial services, retail, telecommunication, and tourism. Financial services have expanded in response to the demands of the oil sector, with banks and other institutions adapting to new opportunities. Telecommunications and information technology have also seen growth, with improvements in internet access and mobile coverage. Tourism, particularly ecotourism, holds significant potential given Guyana's rich biodiversity and natural beauty, but it remains underdeveloped due to limited infrastructure and marketing. In conclusion, while oil has transformed Guyana's economy, the government faces the challenge of ensuring that this wealth is used to foster balanced and sustainable growth. Diversification efforts in agriculture, mining, manufacturing, and services are crucial to ensuring long-term prosperity. Proper management of oil revenues through investments in human capital, infrastructure, and environmental sustainability will be key to avoiding the risks of overdependence on oil and ensuring inclusive growth for future generations. Now let's look at what Guyana's government is doing to affect its economy. Guyana's government has implemented a range of policies to manage the country's rapid economic transformation, primarily driven by the discovery of significant oil reserves. Central to this strategy is the Natural Resource Fund, or NRF, a sovereign wealth fund designed to safeguard oil revenues for future generations and stabilize the economy against volatility in global oil prices. Alongside the NRF, the Petroleum Commission regulates oil activities, ensuring transparency in contracts with multinational companies and promoting local content policies to ensure Guyanese businesses and workers benefit from the oil sector. These policies are complemented by investments in infrastructure to support oil production, such as improved ports, roads, and energy supplies. Recognizing the need for diversification, the government has also introduced policies aimed at strengthening other sectors of the economy, such as agriculture, mining, and manufacturing. In agriculture, the National Agricultural Research and Extension Institute, NAREI, has led efforts to modernize the sector, with subsidies and investments in rural infrastructure aimed at improving productivity, especially in key crops like rice and sugar. The government is also encouraging diversification within agriculture, promoting the cultivation of new crops and agro-processing activities. In the mining sector, stricter regulations have been enforced to promote environmentally sustainable practices, particularly in gold mining, while also supporting investments in materials like bauxite. Manufacturing remains small but vital, with government incentives such as tax holidays and investment allowances aimed at encouraging growth in agro-processing and light industries. Fiscal and monetary policies have also played a key role in shaping the economy. The government has pursued expansionary fiscal policies, using oil revenue to increase public spending on infrastructure, healthcare, and education, while maintaining fiscal prudence by saving a portion of oil revenue in the NRF. Tax reforms such as lowering corporate tax rates and improving tax administration have been implemented to encourage investment and boost revenue collection. On the monetary side, the Bank of Guyana has focused on maintaining exchange rate stability and controlling inflation, while modernizing the financial system to promote digital banking and expand access to credit for small and medium-sized enterprises. Social policies have also been a priority, with increased spending on healthcare, education, and social services to ensure that economic growth is inclusive. Investments in healthcare infrastructure and programs to improve technical and vocational training, particularly in areas related to the oil and gas industry, are part of broader efforts to develop human capital and reduce inequality. In addition, social protection programs have been expanded to provide better support for vulnerable populations, including pensions and housing programs. Environmental sustainability is another key focus, with the government continuing its Low Carbon Development Strategy, or LCDS, to maintain economic growth with the protection of Guyana's forests and biodiversity. The Norway-Guyana REDD Plus agreement provides payments to Guyana for preserving its forests and reducing carbon emissions, while plans to invest in renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and hydropower aim to reduce the country's carbon footprint and promote sustainable development. In summary, Guyana's government has adopted a comprehensive approach to managing its rapidly growing economy, balancing the benefits of the oil sector with efforts to diversify the economy, promote social equity, and protect the environment. Effective implementation of these policies, along with continued efforts to address challenges like corruption, inequality, and environmental risks, will be crucial for ensuring long-term prosperity. Now let's look at imports and exports. Guyana's trade balance has undergone a major transformation due to the discovery of offshore oil reserves, which have shifted the structure of its exports significantly. Traditionally, Guyana's economy was driven by agriculture and mineral exports, with sugar, rice, gold, and bauxite being the main contributors. However, since 2019, crude oil has become the dominant export, accounting for the largest share of export earnings. By 2023, Guyana was exporting hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil per day to markets like the United States, India, and Europe. Despite the rapid growth of oil, gold remains an important export, primarily sent to the US, UK, and Canada. Additionally, rice and sugar continue to play a significant role in Guyana's export profile, with rice reaching markets in Latin America, Europe, and the Caribbean. Bauxite, once a primary export, has declined in importance, but is still exported to North America and Europe for aluminum production. On the import side, Guyana heavily relies on machinery, equipment, and industrial inputs, particularly for the oil industry and infrastructure development. Much of these imports come from the United States, China, and Europe. Guyana also imports refined petroleum products, such as gasoline and diesel, due to the lack of domestic refining capacity. Additionally, the country imports large quantities of food products, particularly processed foods, grains, and beverages, from the United States, Canada, and neighboring Caribbean nations. As Guyana's economy grows, imports of consumer goods, including electronics, clothing, and vehicles, have risen sharply, reflecting the increased purchasing power of its citizens. Guyana's main trading partners, including the United States, which is a key destination for its oil and gold exports and a major supplier of machinery and fuel. China plays an important role as a supplier of construction materials and consumer goods, while Trinidad and Tobago and Brazil are significant regional trade partners. Within CARICOM, Guyana exports rice, sugar, and rum, while importing processed foods and beverages. The discovery of oil has helped shift Guyana's trade balance towards a surplus in recent years, which has boosted its foreign exchange reserves and reduced its trade deficit. Despite the strong performance in oil exports, Guyana faces challenges such as infrastructure limitations and the lack of diversification in its export sector, making the economy vulnerable to oil price fluctuation. The government is working to address these issues by improving trade infrastructure and encouraging diversification through sectors like agro-processing, light manufacturing, and ecotourism. As oil production continues to grow, Guyana has the potential to leverage its strategic location and natural resources to become a more significant player in global trade, while also creating a more resilient economy through diversification. Guyana's debt levels have fluctuated significantly over the years, influenced by external borrowing, domestic financing, and the emergence of its oil sector. In the 1990s and early 2000s, Guyana struggled with unsustainable debt levels, largely due to economic mismanagement and overborrowing during the 1970s and 1980s. This led to a debt relief under the Heavily Indebted Poor Countries, or HIPC, initiative, which combined with structural reforms help stabilize the economy. Since the discovery of offshore oil reserves in the 2010s, Guyana's economic outlook has dramatically improved, increasing its capacity to manage debt. By 2023, Guyana's public debt stood at approximately $3.5 billion, including both external and domestic debt. However, due to the rapid GDP growth from oil exports, the country's debt to GDP ratio remains around 28%, which is low by international standards. Much of this recent borrowing has been directed towards critical infrastructure projects aimed at modernizing the economy. While these investments are necessary for long-term development, they have contributed to a rise in nominal debt levels. Guyana's external debt, which makes up the majority of its public debt, is owed primarily to the multilateral lenders such as the Inter-American Development Bank, or IDB, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. Additionally, China has emerged as a key creditor, financing infrastructure projects through its Belt and Road Initiative. Despite rising oil revenues, the government has not aggressively paid down external debt, preferring to balance debt servicing with continued investments in the infrastructure and social services. Guyana's domestic debt, though smaller, has grown as the government has issued more domestic bonds to fund its budget and capital projects. However, the underdeveloped domestic bond market and higher interest rates make domestic borrowing more challenging. The government is working to improve access to domestic credit while reducing reliance on external borrowing. Despite the relatively low debt to GDP ratio, there are risks associated with Guyana's borrowing, especially if oil prices drop or expect to drop. The government's fiscal plans are heavily dependent on sustained oil prices that are high, making the economy vulnerable to external shocks. Additionally, the non-oil sectors of the economy, such as agriculture and mining, have not kept pace with oil-driven growth, raising concerns about over-reliance on oil revenues. To mitigate these risks, the government has established a Natural Resource Fund, or NRF, to save a portion of the oil revenue for future generations and protect against price volatility. The NRF plays a critical role in ensuring oil wealth is managed responsibly and the borrowing remains sustainable. In summary, Guyana's debt levels have increased due to public investment in infrastructure development, but the debt to GDP ratio remains low thanks to rapid growth of oil revenue. The long-term sustainability of this debt depends on government's ability to manage oil revenues, control borrowing, and diversify the economy to reduce its dependency on oil. Effective management of these challenges will be key to ensuring Guyana's debt remains manageable and supports its economic development goals. Guyana, with its emerging wealth from newfound oil reserves, stands at a critical juncture. While oil revenues provide opportunities for economic transformation, they also bring challenges, particularly the risk of Dutch disease, a phenomenon where a resource boom causes a sharp appreciation of the local currency, negatively affecting other sectors such as manufacturing and agriculture. To avoid this, Guyana must adopt strategies that diversify its economy, promoting sustainable growth without over-relying on oil revenue. A sovereign wealth fund is a key instrument to avoid Dutch disease, and Guyana has already established its NRF. The NRF allows the government to save excess oil revenues, invest them globally, and use the returns to fund long-term development projects. A sovereign wealth fund can mitigate the inflationary pressures of increased domestic spending and prevent the local currency from appreciating too quickly. Key strategies for success include ensuring the SWF is invested in a diversified international portfolio to minimize exposure to volatile oil markets, ensuring transparent governance with regular public reporting and oversight, and gradually withdrawing funds to avoid inflation. while investing in critical infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Developing an economic corridor for health research can be a cornerstone of diversifying Guyana's economy. By positioning itself as a regional hub for health-related research and development, Guyana can attract foreign direct investment, or FDI, foster innovation, and create high-quality jobs. This can be done through partnerships with international universities, research centers, and pharmaceutical companies, offering tax incentives and grants to companies that invest in health research and investing in infrastructure development such as specialized research parks. Building expertise in biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, and public health will attract top talent and boost long-term economic growth. Investing in information technology for health can further enhance healthcare outcomes while stimulating the broader economy. Guyana can tap into the expanding global digital health market by building IT capacities focused on health. Priorities for investment should include digital health platforms that provide telemedicine, electronic health records, and remote monitoring of patients, especially in underserved areas. Additionally, investing in IT skills and education programs will foster a tech-savvy workforce that can help Guyana become a leader in digital health solutions. Outsourcing opportunities in health, data management, and telehealth services can attract foreign capital and create jobs. Implementing quality-focused regulations across industries, particularly in health and IT, will be crucial for establishing Guyana as a high-standard investment destination. High-quality standards attract both foreign and domestic investors and build trust in Guyana's capabilities as a stable economy. Regulatory strategy should focus on stringent healthcare and R&D standards, ensuring high standards in healthcare services and research to position Guyana as a regional leader. Additionally, strengthening intellectual property laws will encourage more investments in innovation, while regulatory reforms that reduce bureaucracy and streamline business processes will promote economic diversification. The development of health tourism can be another significant avenue for economic growth. Guyana's natural beauty, combined with modern health infrastructure, can attract tourists seeking wellness treatments. Developing eco-friendly resorts offering medical and wellness services will draw international clientele, especially from nearby nations. By offering high-quality healthcare at lower cost compared to developed nations, Guyana can attract medical tourists, particularly for elective surgeries and wellness treatments. Building partnerships with insurance providers will facilitate patient referrals to Guyanese healthcare facilities and marketing Guyana as a health and wellness destination in regional markets such as North America and the Caribbean, which can establish the country's reputation for affordable, high-quality care. Securing low environmental impact loans from the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, and other global institutions can provide a sustainable source of financing for economic development projects that prioritize environmental protection. This approach ensures Guyana's growth does not harm its rich biodiversity and natural resources. IMF loans can be used to finance green infrastructure projects such as renewable energy and sustainable agriculture, reducing the carbon footprint and helping Guyana avoid over-reliance on fossil fuels. Conservation-based loans can support efforts to preserve rainforests and wetlands, and such initiatives can be combined with carbon credit trading to create new revenue streams. Sustainability-focused conditions tied to environmental protection and social development will ensure that borrowed funds contribute to long-term growth while mitigating ecological damage. In conclusion, to spur sustainable economic growth while avoiding Dutch disease, Guyana must carefully balance its oil revenue management with diversified investments in sectors like healthcare, information technology, and eco-friendly development. Establishing a strong sovereign wealth fund to safeguard oil revenues, combined with strategic investments in health research, digital health technology, and health tourism, can position Guyana as a hub for innovation in medical excellence. Regulatory frameworks focused on quality, alongside environmentally conscious financial management through IMF loans, will further enhance Guyana's prospects for diversified, sustainable growth. By executing these strategies, Guyana can build a resilient economy that thrives beyond oil, creating lasting prosperity for its people. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this exploration of Guyana's economy, be sure to like, subscribe, and join our Patreon for more deep dives into the world's most fascinating geopolitical stories. Have a great week, and don't forget to never stop learning.